YouTube, what is up, guys? James MTG Biggie here, and I want to talk about something that is sort of old news, has been covered by literally everybody on YouTube already, and any article writer that writes for Channel Fireball or Star City Games. Like, every website has covered this, every YouTuber has covered it, sort of. So I'm a bit late to the party, but specifically I would like to talk about the leaks from Hour of Devastation, and as it relates to the most popular video on this very channel. It's a video I did on a Grixis Control shell that I thought before the Pro Tour might have been a good option for Standard going forward. Turns out after the Pro Tour, blue-red was sort of the way to go. My deck was base blue-red with black on the splash, but I think pure blue-red ended up being like the flavor of the control shells for the Pro Tour and beyond in the format, because of the consistency and the mana base and stuff like that, and you have most of the answers you need for the threats that exist in Standard, and you can outgrind other decks with card advantage, with Glimmer of Genius and stuff like that, right? But now, I feel like with these spoilers that have come up, at least 2 of the 3, Grixis might be the flavor to go back to. Maybe I was onto something and I didn't even know it. I wasn't even thinking that, oh yeah, in the next set, Nicol Bolas is going to be a thing, right? We all know that. So, why not stick with the Grixis? Anyway, the first of the 2 major cards I want to talk about is Bantu's Last Reckoning. It is 1 and 2 black mana for a sorcery. It says destroy all creatures. Okay? If it stops there, and it was just 3 mana, destroy all creatures for a black sorcery, it's probably one of the best black cards ever printed. No questions asked. Like, easy, right? One of the best black cards ever printed. Well, it doesn't stop there, and they have to make a drawback because Wizards of the Coast likes to temper the power level down. They don't want to give you the best version of the best card to do the best thing that it does in Standard all the time. So, in this case, lands you control don't untap during your next untap step. Meaning that on turn 3, if you're going to cast this to sweep away the board, kill some creatures, your lands aren't going to untap on your untap step, so you're not going to have access to mana, obviously, on your opponent's turn, and then on your turn, coming back, you're not going to be able to do anything. So you're going to have to delay yourself a turn from answering whatever further threats your opponent is casting, and stuff like that. I don't feel like it's a massive, massive drawback, although it is certainly a drawback. Where this card, I think, shines is late in the game, where if you have more than 3 mana, you can cast this, sweep away the board, keep mana up, and then on your following turn, you let their opponent do what they're doing on their turn. On your following turn, you have some mana to work with to answer whatever they did. And then your following turn, everything untaps, and you get to start again fresh with all your lands and access to all your mana. In a Grixis shell, we have Sweltering Suns. It's a good sweeper. It's a really good sweeper. It cycles. So I don't know that this replaces that exactly or per se, but there may be a situation if, like, mid-range becomes a bigger thing, and there are more decks with Ishkana and stuff like that in the format, where Sweltering Suns just isn't going to cut it. Maybe Bantu's Last Reckoning is something that slots in either in a sideboard or partially in main deck, whatever the case may be. Probably will be better deck builders than I am to figure out those numbers. But I see this at least being tested. A lot of people assumed that Yeheni's Expertise was going to be everywhere after it was spoiled, and it literally ended up nowhere. 0 copies in any relevant decks, right? So, we'll see. And like stuff like Sweltering Suns already kind of covers zombies. So it's an iffy thing whether or not this will be relevant in a Grixis Control shell or anywhere in Standard, but it's still an interesting card to have, and I think it's cool, and I'd welcome it into a format where people are still trying to do stuff that's not Aetherworks Marvel. Other than that, the big incentive for Grixis now, I feel, is freaking Nicol Bolas, God Pharaoh. Grixis colors, so blue, black, red, and then 4 generic mana, so 7 mana Planeswalker. Starts out with 7 loyalty, and it has 4 abilities. So a 4 ability Planeswalker, they have historically been very good. Jason Mind Sculptor is the best Planeswalker ever, right? And then Chandra, Torch of Defiance, while it's not living up to the hype that everybody assumed it would live up to, it's still pretty good, and it's getting better. It's seeing play all the way back to Legacy in some mono red decks and stuff like that. So a 4-mana Planeswalker, no matter what it says on the card, it's always something that you got to look at. This one specifically has a +2 ability. Target opponent exiles cards from the top of his or her library until they exile a non-land card. And then until the end of turn, you may cast that card without paying its mana cost. So 7 mana gets you a card off the top of your opponent's deck at the very least to cast for free. That's pretty sweet. Who knows how effective that's going to be in Standard or what sort of gameplay that's going to lead to. Seems pretty sweet. It seems like a lot of value to jump up immediately to 9 loyalty on a Planeswalker and take a spell from your opponent's deck just for free. Just for playing the game, right? The other plus ability is a +1. Each opponent exiles 2 cards from his or her hand. So a Karn Liberated type ability. You get 2 cards instead of 1. Still pretty good. In a control deck, you want to have card advantage. This is clearly a way to have card advantage. Even if they're hucking 2 lands or whatever, it's still pretty valuable. Even in a late game scenario where they may be their last 2 cards, if those 2 cards are lands, you plus it the turn you play it, you get rid of those 2 cards. If they draw something, they're going to be forced to play it if it's not an instant on their turn, or you're going to make them discard again, right? A -4 ability, Nicol Bolas God Pharaoh, deals 7 damage to target opponent or creature an opponent controls. So in Standard, you could just play this thing and -4 it immediately. It's still going to live, and you're going to get to kill their biggest threat, their Glorybringer, their whatever. It doesn't freaking matter, right? Anything that's not Ulamog in the format's dead. Pretty sweet. Or, by turn 7, when you're casting this in a Grixis deck, your opponent's life total may not be that high. Who knows? I mean, it may still be your Steel Control Shell, but if you go, Gear Hulk a couple turns before or whatever into this, or hit them with a Wandering Fumarole or something into this and threaten their life total, this may be like just the finisher. Finish them off in a shot or 2. You can go down with it, then go back up, take a card off their library, and then go back down with it and 14 them in 2 turns as long as you protect this thing. Pretty sweet. And then its ultimate ability, -12, exile each non-land permanent your opponent controls. So just blow up their whole board, minus their lands. One-sided. Pretty ridiculous. I don't see it happening often, but you know what? Who knows? In a control mirror, that may just be the ender, right? Although control deck's not known to have permanents, but if you have this looming threat that could blow up opposing Gear Hulks or opposing Planeswalkers or whatever the case may be, it does get rid of your opponent's Ulamogs and stuff. Pretty good. Before, in my Grixis shell, I was running Ob Nixilis Reignited, which is a 5-mana, all-black Planeswalker, 3 generic, 2 black, and it's card advantage and a removal spell, and had the ability to become a win condition over time if you can get to the ultimate. I feel like it was a pretty good fit in a Grixis shell, and it did its job and was serviceable during the testing I did with that deck. This, I think, trumps that like tenfold. Or stands beside it. Who knows? Ob Nixilis is still maybe something you're in the business for, right? Nicol Bolas, it's obviously a win condition. It's a totally removal spell. And it also provides card advantage through making your opponent discard and stealing cards off top of their deck. So it kind of does it all in a pretty neat package, especially curving out in a Grixis deck. Before, the whole strategy is, even in blue-red control, it's removal spell, removal spell, removal spell, take care of your first few threats, 1-for-1 style, and then finally cast something like a Glimmer of Genius, or the X card draw spell escapes me right now, the name of it, Pull from Tomorrow. Yeah. Cast something like that, draw some cards, get some card advantage, and then land a Torrential Gear Hulk and flash either a removal spell back or some more card draw, right? And that's how you win the game. You just slowly 1-for-1 until you can build an advantage and then pull away. Well, with Nicol Bolas, you can have that same curve. You can go removal spell, removal spell, removal spell, draw spell, Torrential Gearhulk, flashback, one of those previous ones, into Nicol Bolas. You can go turn 6 on your opponent's turn, end step, flash in a Torrential Gearhulk, flash back a removal spell or a Glimmer of Genius, draw some cards, and then on turn 7, slam Nicol Bolas. And then you're attacking for 5, possibly with the Gearhulk, and then either taking a card of theirs, making them pitch their last 2 cards, hopefully at that point, or killing something huge. Pretty ridiculous. Or just doming them for 7. This, I feel like, is the better finisher for a control deck than Ob Nixilis, and it stands really well on the curve with Torrential Gearhulk. So, I would say look for a Grixis Control deck with at least 2 of these in the main deck for sure in the future. I mean, it kind of builds itself, right? The blue decks, the blue-green decks, or blue-red decks rather, already were good and getting better in the meta. This is something that you could literally splash. You don't have to play any black cards. You could take your blue-red shell, throw a couple of the black cycling lands in there, build the mana base appropriately, and then you just get to play with probably what will be the most powerful Planeswalker in Standard, maybe outside of Gideon. So a very good, effective card in that deck. I would say look for that deck to be a thing. I may make an updated list and revisit that deck tech. Aside from that, we have Samut the Tested, which I would like to call Samut the Underwhelming. It's 2 generic and a red and a green. A 4-mana Planeswalker. It starts at 4 loyalty. So the stats are fine or whatever. But it has a +1 up to 1 target creature gains double strike until the end of turn. Which is, I guess, okay. In your red-green monsters sort of builds, this is kind of what you want to be doing, I guess. And then a -2. It deals 2 damage divided as you choose among 2 target creatures and or players. Which is like the least exciting possible ability you can have for minusing a Planeswalker. It is super underwhelming. Like, you're going to play this thing for 4 mana and then minus it down to 2 mana so it's in shock range to deal 2 damage to a thing or 1 damage to 2 things. It just not exciting to me for whatever reason. I mean, you know, I'm not generally a green-red sort of player, but this just isn't exciting. And then the -7, search your library for up to 2 creatures and or Planeswalkers, put them on the battlefield and shuffle your library. That's pretty exciting. However, this thing costs 4 mana, comes out of 4 loyalty, goes up 1 at a time. So you have to cast this thing and then plus it 3 times before you're able to ultimate it. While you're protecting it, hopefully with blockers, or if you use it as its own protection and remove a couple threats, then you have to plus it like 5 times to get to the ultimate. The ultimate is the only really exciting ability. If you're plussing it and giving something double strike, you're attacking, so you're taking blockers down out of the game from protecting it. I mean, you don't have to, but, you know, it's kind of just a weird, awkward Planeswalker to me. Arlen Cord is still in the format, and that card did nothing, and everybody thought it was going to be insane because it's got like 6 abilities on 2 sides, or 5 abilities on 2 sides, whatever the case was, and it actually did nothing. Werewolves wasn't a thing, right? And that still feels a little better than this, maybe. This is not that exciting, super underwhelming, and nothing great for the current Standard meta. Maybe there's something that enables this sort of deck where this is just sort of the 4-drop you want. Probably not. We'll see. I could be totally wrong. I'm often wrong, so that is that. Outside of that, that's pretty much what we have for today. Just wanted to talk about these leaks, these spoilers. I look forward to seeing more from this set and seeing what happens in Standard after this set comes out. The other thing I wanted to briefly touch on is back to Nicol Bolas, since we get Samut out of the way. Could you possibly see this in a Grixis build of Marvel? I know Grixis colors aren't really building a ton of energy, to activate Marvel over and over again, but certainly 4-color could be. You could be Grixis with green and have your mana fixing and stuff like that, and your energy engine online, just to be marveling into Nicol Bolas or Ulamog or Torrential Gearhulk all in the same deck. Is that going to be what finally breaks it for Aetherworks Marvel? Who knows? They may decide to ban the card before then, not Nicol Bolas, but the Aetherworks Marvel. Either way, I'd like to hear what you think about these and what you think about control decks going forward in Standard. Please comment down below, like, share, and subscribe. I'm going to put a subscribe button up in the top corner here, I believe, or over there. Still not used to that, which end it's going to be on. And I'll link back to the Grixis Control deck, the original video, down here somewhere at the end of the video. So please check that stuff out. Let me know what you think. And hopefully we get to see some cool stuff in Standard. I'm looking forward to trying to build Control again. Make Control great again, as it were. But either way, I will talk to you again very soon. And I will be covering all the spoilers possible as they start coming through. So I will see you soon. Bye.